It has been said that the position of a teacher comes with great responsibility as to steer the student in the right direction. Well, today on the Career Musician Podcast, we have a good friend and my high school teacher, Mr. Ric Mightybone Feliciano, with credits like Billy Joel, Paul Simon, John Lee Hooker Jr., Pete Escovedo, Willy Torres, Phil Driscoll, Zucchero, Toto, Foreigner, Jimmy Bosch, and many others. Ric is the man, and he's got 2 Grammy noms for his arranging skills. And you know what? You're not going to want to miss this episode, because here's the man with the plan that helped me, which now in turn brings the Career Musician Podcast to you. Mr. Ric Feliciano, welcome to the Career Musician.
Oh man, it's an honor, man. It's a complete honor. It's been a blast.
Absolutely. And as my former teacher, my high school teacher, I believe we just deduced that it's freshman and sophomore years. I still have a tendency to call you Mr. Feliciano.
I have a lot of my former students in my phone here. It's been years, huh?
Dude, I don't even remember half of the stuff. It's crazy. I was thinking about it. I'm like, because I was still basically in the semi-formative years. What was I? 14?
No, yeah. You were just a baby.
Wow.
You were a kid, yeah.
What year was this that I was in?
This was in the 80s. This was in the 87, 86, something like that. But it was awesome. It was awesome back in the day. The whole nother lifetime. Man, I remember your family. It was really, really cool. You know, you guys, I remember you flowering, into something like overnight.
Crazy, man.
But which I think you didn't realize that you were flowering. I think
right.
And your parents certainly had no idea. I had to tell them, no, guys, this guy has something,
Yeah.
And so it's like when they saw me be serious, like, you have something there, you gotta,
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden he got super. All of a sudden next week he's telling me, "Oh yeah, I bought this guitar." I was like, "Really? Okay, I'm sorry." I felt bad to making him do something, but then I thought about it. I said, "No, he needs that."
Yeah.
It's something you needed to get
Absolutely.
you. That's sort of what happened to me when I was back in the day in Brooklyn.
Shout out to my Strong Island people.
Dix Hills.
Dix Hills. That's right. It was in Dix Hills. I went to this. It was
Park, Dix Hills.
It was all the same. It was this Christian school, like this serious, Baptist, Pentecostal.
Hardcore.
Christian. Yeah.
Pentecostal, yeah. Hardcore.
It was I'm not going to lie, man. It was the type of shit that was scary at times.
It was hardcore. No lie. It was serious shit.
Yeah. And then, so here's my only memory. Well, I have a few, but my main memory of us interacting was, first of all, how much I liked you, because you were the best teacher there, in my opinion, because you were the most nurturing, but you were the hippest. You were the coolest guy. A lot of the other teachers were real square. I remember.
Yeah, I call them the oversaved.
The oversaved. I love it. But I remember
they're so saved that they're oversaved.
Man, they take it to the next level. I remember meeting in this classroom. It was almost like the attic of the building. We were way at the top.
Yeah, well, we were behind the speakers. We had behind Myers speakers, Myers wedges, and we were literally behind Myers wedges on the top, because if you look through, there was a whole sanctuary down there.
That's right.
We were in the upper room, I guess, behind the speakers, behind Myers wedges. But
I remember you. Yeah, I remember you turning me on to some music theory early on and some classical music, and that's it. The bug bit me. I was all in.
Yeah, well, I've always taught. I've been teaching now 37 years. Can you imagine?
Wow.
3.5 decades I've been teaching.
Congratulations.
Still. I mean, I just got off a few lessons this morning.
Incredible.
And it's amazing that it's like, but they themselves have kids and they're going to college, and I taught them when they were like in fourth grade, third grade, fourth grade. It's like crazy.
It's crazy, man. So let me ask you this: you're Puerto Rican.
I'm 100% Puerto Rican, right. La Isla, from New York.
From New York. So you're Boricua.
New Rican. I'm Boricua from New York.
Yeah, you go. There you go. All right. So how did you get into the music? Once you got into music, how did a life of teaching become your calling?
Well, actually, the teaching came after I was a professional musician. Really, I had to start in the fourth grade in Brooklyn, New York. My old teacher, Elliot Funtliner, he still calls me. He's 80. He's in his mid 80s, and he still calls me every once in a while, keeping up with my career. But he was back in his 20s back in the day when he told my parents on a Friday in the fourth grade, he says, I got to talk to you guys. And so I thought I was in trouble. All weekend long, my parents telling me, what did you do? What did you say? Monday came, it says, your son has a gift, kind of like what I did with you. Your son has a gift and this and that, and you have to do something and this and that. And all fourth graders in Brooklyn, back in the day when music departments were music departments, they loaned instruments to everyone in the fourth grade.
Yeah.
That action from that music department plus that action from that guy set me on a course that changed my life. That's why I'm saying teachers can really change lives. I mean, literally change lives. I mean, you and me, I have stories after stories after stories. Not that a lot of them are not professional. In fact, more than half musicians in the world are not performers. They use music for their own personal edification. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Their lives are changed nonetheless.
That is so true, man, because a good teacher can make or break the difference in whether that student is going to continue on and in what capacity, right? Because you set the initial mindset of that student.
Yeah. And also it explodes into other areas. I mean, I have this friend, former student. I helped her songwriting. She had a sequencer, and so we were doing sequences, and her dad was good in videography. This is 9-10 years ago. I helped her get into NYU.
Wow.
What we did was we took commercials, like Cheerios commercials and a couple of other commercials, stripped the music. We put her music on.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
It was 30-second spot and 60-second spots. And so that got accepted. She got a full ride to NYU.
Wow.
4 years later, Google hired her because she's not a musician. I mean, she's an unbelievable musician, but that's not what she did say. She's an engineer at Google / musician. And so Google is using her left and right because every device has music, right?
Right.
So Google is using her as an engineer, and oh, by the way, music. And so she always tells me, man, the sessions we did, thank God we did music together because I'm an engineer. She doesn't perform, but she knows music. She's a real amazing musician, but she doesn't perform. She's an engineer, and she's using all her things and she's doing something with Pixar now, and she's doing music things, but in her engineering space.
That's incredible. So that's testament to the fact that music isn't always the forefront. It doesn't always have to be the primary focus. It can be, like you said, auxiliary.
Check this out. Da Vinci, Rene Descartes, who did the Cartesian equations between algebra and geometry.
Yeah.
The Bernoulli brothers, who did the Bernoulli principles, Einstein, Plato, all these guys were musicians. They used music for their own personal. Einstein would play his violin for 20 minutes, and then he would write his shit.
Wow. That's incredible. So it's like the perfect gateway into that direct connection with the muse, right?
Yeah, because music is the one entity in life that is both math and language simultaneously. It's the one thing that goes beyond words. It goes and it's tied to your soul, tied to your feelings. It's the one thing that can turn a stopped up stagnant pond into a flowing stream. And these engineers, a lot of these guys, they get stopped up in writing code and whatever. I have this one guy. He's Apple bought his company out. He works at Apple headquarters. He's a tenor sax student. He writes code, and sometimes he gets blocked. And he goes home, plays his tenor sax for a half hour. All of a sudden, he's writing all kinds of crap on his computer.
Wow.
So his secret weapon is a saxophone. He says it's unlocking. And then I told him about that. So, well, you're doing what all these great thinkers did. So he loved it. I ain't never heard that before, but it's true.
So it really is the great unlocker. That's amazing.
Yes, because it's math over time and space. And harmonics is involved. The harmonic series in calculus is involved. It's language, and so it gets in the crevices of our soul, of our existence.
Now, how did you? So from that time when that teacher said, "Look, you have something special They bought you your first instrument. How did your trajectory go from there into being a professional musician and teaching finally?
So over the years, I was blessed to have great music programs from fourth grade all the way to 12th grade. We had championship bands. We went to Washington, D.C., represent New York State for the Jimmy Carter inauguration. We did the Thanksgiving Day parade. We won all the competitions and stuff. So we were, badass. And I was part of a drum and bugle corps called Garfield, and we also traveled around the country. All that investment that my parents and all that created something that I had almost no choice to. It has its own momentum.
It does.
If you will.
It does. Yeah.
It has its own directional vector, and you just become this. Now, what happens in the young adult is you try to fulfill other people's thing. Well, you can't make money in music. You can't. So I veered off a little bit. Plus, as a young adult, I was teaching over there, at the thing, in my 20s. But thank God, the church, they needed music. And so I got smacked into music again. It's like I couldn't avoid music.
So what was your title over at Upper Room?
I was director of music in school.
Okay,
I was number 2, the music arranger, writer for the band, and Richie was the leader. There's the dreamer, whatever, and then the number 2 guy usually is the ones that knows what the hell to do.
Yeah.
But he takes his shit, whatever, and it's like, okay, so you know how to pull my off, so I'm not a liar.
Right.
Yeah, I know how to pull it off, and so.
So Richie, I remember that name. What was his last name? Richie
Petrello.
I remember him. Yeah. So it was really, but man, that band was amazing, and the arrangements that you wrote were incredible. I mean, because you had a full horn section, a full choir.
It was God-given. Eventually, we got the attention of Phil Driscoll, and we did an album of Phil Driscoll, which got nominated. Now I got the album. I did the horn arrangements on that album. I got credit for horn arrangements. That was the first one. And the whole album got nominated. That's how I got into the Grammys. I've been a voting member for the Grammys since the 90s, since the early 90s.
Wow.
And the second one was with Johnny Hooker on Junior on 2004. I did the same thing, wrote the horn arrangements, and that one got nominated.
Okay.
First one was with Phil Driscoll. And up until that time, I didn't sing a note. He's the one to tell me, because I'm singing in the horn charts that I'm going to sing. And I'm singing in the horn charts on this little Mac 512. It's like I'm writing stuff. We're both on stage writing stuff. And then he says, you're a singer, right? And it's like, no, I'm not a singer, So he revolutionized my whole thing. It's like, so you're a singer and you're going to sing,
Wow.
He was pretty forceful. And lo and behold, today I know more from my voice than,
wow.
than for my trombone. So it's kind of weird.
That's incredible, but man,
but in the Latin market, not.
But your trombone skills are ridiculous too, man. I remember you just being a badass. I mean, and all the recordings that I've been listening to now. Thank you, by the way, for sharing. But before we get there, because I want to talk about all the music you've been doing, I want to know more about. You just said it. You had a Mac, an Apple 512. Man, let's talk about the technology back then, because you guys were on the cutting edge. I remember being in Upper Room. And it was the big band.
Crazy.
Yeah, and you guys had the first Roger Lindrum, and tell me more about that.
Yeah.
The whole.
You know that, huh?
I remember that. I remember seeing that. Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay, well, that's good that you remember that. What happened was Phil. Phil took us in, and he had so much to do with us getting into the breaking through. It was a wild, wild west back then, and MIDI was invented. MIDI was invented in 1983. In 1985, we're in New Orleans somewhere, going to a NAMM show. We were in the NAMM show in New Orleans, and he tells us, dude, you talk with a grovelly voice, dude, there's something called MIDI that was invented. It's going to revolutionize the whole thing. Your Roland's going to be able to talk to your Juno. Your Juno's going to be able to talk to Yamaha. And it was like, yeah, Phil, whatever. And we were in this car talking like this, like, yeah, we can't, yeah, whatever, one day. And it was true. MIDI, little did I know I would be heavily involved with that MIDI stuff, Eventually, 2 or 3 years later, I had machines. You know, you don't remember the rigs that I had.
I
It was
vaguely
like Emerson,
remember.
Lake and Palmer.
I vaguely remember.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we had we had a Kurzweil. We had a Kurzweil. The first 100 Kurzweils that were around. We at the NAMM show in New Orleans, we got the Lin 9000. The Lin 9000. It was number 5. I think it was the 5th one ever made.
Jeez.
You know, just crazy stuff like that. The Mac 512. So here's the deal. The first computer that I did those huge shows, the cantatas, was a Mac 512. The entire computer is 512 kilobytes, not megabytes, not gigabytes, kilobytes.
Kilobytes? What? Are you serious? How the hell did it process anything? How could it?
Look it up. Look it up. It was this thing because software back in the day was not bloated. It was kilobyte, 512K, Mac 512. The first Mac I had, it was a little guy like this, and so I remember distinctly learning by hard knocks. For example, I didn't know to save. So 3 weeks before cantata, after 6 months.
Wait a minute. You didn't know to save?
Well, we didn't have computers. No one had computers.
Of course not. Oh my God. Crazy.
No one had computers. We didn't know, you know, what we know now.
Yeah.
There was no cute videos and the internet telling us, you know, whatever. And you know, I mean, literally, when I say it was a wild, wild west, it was a wild, wild west. And the books was like a pamphlet written for engineers. It was engineer speak. It was no nice, you know. So we was like, I don't know what the heck they're talking about there. So we just kind of winged it. Well, the whole show got deleted, and they have a cantata in 3 weeks after writing for 6 months. You know.
Wait.
No
So
idea.
the whole show that you programmed in over 6 month time.
Yeah, this thing was controlling lights because we had the sunboard. Because through MIDI you can control lights, and so do you know in 4 days I rewrote the show doing all-nighter, and it was better.
Wow.
It was like one of those miracle from God kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was actually better, tighter, more efficient show. So you know what? I think it's better this. So and it became leaner, tighter, better.
Right.
So it's almost like meant to be. But I learned a huge lesson. I never forgot to save.
Man, that was on floppy disks then, right?
Floppy disks and hard drive. Again, there's no audio. Audio came 10 years later in the 90s.
Right.
So when we talk music, we're talking that, and we're talking using SMPTE. We're striping SMPTE, which we're sacrificing one track for SMPTE, and it would bleed over into another track. It sucked. So I used to have to waste 2 tracks out of an 8-track or 16. I used to have to stripe the entire tape, stripe the entire tape with SMPTE on the last track, leave a track open because it bleeds over. And then I could only do the music there.
Wow. Now let me ask you this. What type of tape machine were you guys using? Do you remember?
TIAC. It was
TIAC. Wow.
No. Fostix something.
Okay. And so it was 8 tracks, you said?
8 tracks, yeah.
Wow. Now, were you guys doing pre-records, or were you just using that to record the performance?
I would do the sequence on the computer. Right. The sequencer, I was using Mark of the Unicorn Motu Performer.
Yeah, DP.
Back then, it wasn't DT. It was just P. It was just P. There was Digital Performer came in the 90s with audio. Back then, it was just the MIDI.
Right.
There was no such thing as digital audio.
So what were you sequencing? Were you sequencing like piano and string?
All the music and the thing, because I don't know if we were doing the whole story of Christ, right? And we were doing the whole depicting of the thing and this sequence and this music incidental music. You know what I mean by incidental music? Incidental music is music background in a scene that's going to transition and whatever. I had to write all that. There were songs, and then we did incidental music, and in between, and transition, and the camel comes over here, and all this stuff.
Right,
And
right.
at the end of that, when that's all set, because we didn't trust to have later on in the late '80s, early '90s, artists were able to do two Macs. Back then, it was all Mac, not PC.
Right.
Two Macs, one slave to the other,
Hmm.
when they wanted to do completely digital and not have everything recorded. So they would depend on the Mac, and if one failed, the other one would continue. We didn't, we weren't that versed, so we just did the entire show and then recorded it onto old school tape. Or
That's
we didn't
incredible.
trust that because back then the Mac could fail, right? And there
Right,
goes the show, right?
right, right, right.
Or all of a sudden the music stops. Well, the Mac, I don't know, just say it was not reliable.
Yeah.
Later on, computers became a lot more reliable.
And then the band would supplement what you sequenced.
Yeah, we would give them the drummer a click.
A click, yeah.
In fact, that's how we recorded the album with Phil Driscoll. In fact, we got rid of the monitors, and we used FM receiver, transmitter receiver. We had FM monitors here to have the stage quiet.
Wow.
That's how we got.
Holy cow. So you guys were doing like freaking Bluetooth before it was even invented.
FM. We were using FM.
That I didn't even know that was a technology back then.
Again, that was Phil. Phil had a $5 million truck drive up from Memphis. Studio truck came up from Memphis, parked alongside the church, and for 3 or 4 days ran wires. We got rid of all the monitors, whatever, and set up the entire church as a recording studio, basically. And we quieted everything down with FM. Today we would use Bluetooth, but
Right.
back then there was no Bluetooth either.
That's,
Yes, I'm a dinosaur from back then.
no, I love it. But
I mean, literally everything was. There was no internet videos on how to do things. Yeah, today we are all cute. We're all
right.
see the video and see the breakdown. Oh, dude, it was. But we learned so much when we go through the hard. It's almost better to learn the hard way than the easy way.
I agree because
I tell students that all the time.
I totally agree. Like right now, the Career Musician built a whole online course about how to record from home like a pro, right? Because I've been doing it for years. I started out using a Tascam 4-track, right? And then I went to a Roland hard disk recorder. And then I went over to, I got my first Mac and I went to Digital Performer. And then I've been on Pro Tools and Logic.
You use Performer?
Yeah, I started in Performer, yeah. So I've been doing it for years.
Is that because of me or just you just did it?
No, it's funny. When I lived in Nashville for a while, one of the producers I was working with was big on Performer, and I was tracking with him every week. So he just set me up with the rig, My point of it is that, nowadays it's so easy. There's so many options, but still, in order to make your recording sound really good, you have to know what you're doing, because there's so much stuff out there. Sure, you could just buy a little cheap laptop and a cheap interface and microphone, but if you don't know how to use it right, you're not going to get good tones, right?
At some point, you have to decide what you are really amazing at. And usually you're only amazing at one or two things. And if you can get a team around you to take care of all the other shit, then you have something. So I'm the music guy in my team. I'm the arranger, whatever, this and that. Do I know how to talk about microphone choice, microphone EQ? Yes, I know. But I don't get my hands dirty. I have my engineer.
That's right.
That I can talk to his language, but he's gonna do all that crap because he does that night and day and night. Meanwhile, I focus on my thing, and I have my other partner dealing with gigs and whatever. I can talk to people, but I'm not him. He can schmooze and talk to all kinds of promoters and this and that. I'm not that.
Yeah.
You got to know who you are and who you're not.
I love that,
when
man.
When you do that, you're gonna be successful.
Yes.
Yeah, because I tried to do everything. I literally tried to do everything, and the only person I know that has done everything was what's his name?
I would say Prince. Yeah.
Prince. Prince did everything.
Yeah, but there is something to be said about it. I really like that concept of knowing your strengths and really focusing on that.
The team thing, you get more better quality, better product.
I couldn't
And
agree more.
the recording engineer I use is Green Day's recording engineer,
Oh, there you go.
and he's amazing.
Right.
He has a Grammy for mixing and mastering from Green Day. So I could speak to him, whatever, and he made it sound amazing.
Right, right,
So,
right.
so between my music, which I know what notes to put, whatever, but with his expertise and the EQ and the mic choices, whatever, it's like multiplication of goodness, you know.
That's
Because
right.
now you're not, you know what I mean? When it's like, all the experts assembled, now you're gonna have a kick-ass product. Soloing improvisation, it's best to tap into your emotions and say, all right, well, that was good, but now I want you to think of that. I want you to think of your, how, she made you mad and she made you whatever. Use that emotion.
Right,
All of a sudden, man, she exploded on the solo. She's like, it's like,
right,
and she could say, it's like, wow, that was amazing. And say, yeah, where did it come from? From your emotion. You
right.
tie your solos to your emotion and this and that. But then, then we start talking about life stuff. It's like, all right, so now let's talk about it for a second. And then we go back to the music, but I can see she's still thinking about it. It's like, huh. Okay. And so, because I like to get more out of just, the lesson, because music is intertwined with our lives, in
Right.
all our lives.
That's so true, man. So tell us about your daily schedule today. Like, what do you do? What is a day in the life of Ric Feliciano? What is your primary focus these days?
Well, today I was teaching lessons, and then right now I'm writing new songs for the next album. Also writing some other parts, but some Hollywood thing down in. They need something for some trailer, and they accepted it. I sent it down a couple of weeks ago, and they accepted it. And so, stuff like that. All of a sudden, a project is needed. Or some horn thing comes in. Someone needs horns, and so I'm the guy. I'm the horn guy, and so I'll do arrangements, and I'll hire the horns, and we do the recording session. And I sing the parts into my. This is my glorified tape. It's a Tascam, the 8-track. And so from here, I go back and start writing and start really fleshing it out. Then I go to Finale, and
You're using Finale to score everything.
I use Finale. I had the chance to go to
Sibelius.
Yeah, and I've been using Finale for 20 years. Every single thing that I've written is on Finale, so I'm not going to change.
Wow. Actually, now tell us about that. John Lee Hooker Jr. and his band.
2004, I've done 5 albums.
You do 5 albums. You arranged all the horns, and you're in the horn section. You're the section leader,
horns.
but you're the section leader as well.
Yes.
Okay.
I hire the horns. The horns, he calls them hot sauce. He calls us hot sauce horns. So when we do stuff, we did some shows in Algeria and about 4 cities in Algeria, and I mean, every show just got bigger and bigger and bigger. We're doing interviews and Algerian TV and whatever. It was just an extraordinary experience. When we go out of the country, his name is bigger outside the country.
Right. And how did you?
This last one we did a gospel album called Testify. You got to hear it. It's unbelievable.
Latin Rhythm Boys. Tell us about that. Latin
Rhythm Boys have been around for 60 years. My partner's, his dad started the band, and so this is next generation stuff, and so I came in there with them now these days, and so we are we're all Puerto Rican, we're all, and so that's where I come from. When I go on the radio, when I do radio interviews, especially on this album stuff, basically I'm saying to them, everyone, we look and honoring the past while looking towards the future. So Fania, I don't know if you know about Fania. Back in the day, the old New York salsa, heavy duty, Hector Lavoe. There was a music label called Fania that they were in charge of all that. So we just say Fania. Fania sound, all that stuff is kind of now starting to go by the wayside, but we're bringing it back, but looking towards the new. And so we write the new stuff. So it sounds like the old stuff, but it's new songs and new diversion. And people are really liking it because it sounds like, there's a new, it was back in the day, it was the East Coast New York salsa. We're calling it the West Coast salsa. Willy Torres from Spanish Harlem, He's on that album. Chino Nunez, Johnny Polanco, before he died, he was on
Wow.
that album. Jimmy Bosch, he's 8-time Grammy winner in New York. He came over and trombone. We did a couple of duets, and in fact, he's already on the next album in the can. All these old timers. I got Hector Lavoe's timbale player.
Wow.
He's on cut number 5 on that album. And all these guys, especially when they used to come into one of the gigs and stuff, and say, "Man, this feels like the old times. This feels like the old days."
Right.
And I wanted that feeling because we need to bridge, not to be stuck in the past, but to kind of give a handle to the past and then bring it towards the future and towards another thing, because that wave is gone.
That's right.
That wave is gone. But here I am. I'm not alive back then. I mean, I was, but I was a kid. I'm alive now, and I want some power. So I had trombones. Back in the day, it was called Mon Rivera. Mon Rivera was a Puerto Rican. They got together Willy Colon and invented this trombone sound. And trombones were heavy trombones in the front of the salsa. Mario Kendo's band had a lot of trombone. Willy Colon had a lot of trombone part. There's a sound, a trombone sound. My band, Latin Rhythm Boys, has a trombone heavy sound. It's called a trobanga sound, a trombone, heavy trombone in your face.
Wow.
There's trumpet, there's bari sax, whatever, but it's a heavy trombone competing with the vocals and the percussion. And that fight between the percussion, the vocal, and the trombones is our sound.
Wow.
It's combustible. It's
Yeah. It's got fire to it for sure.
There's a power. Yeah, there's a power.
Right. So what do you
can't relax with it. It's just one of those.
Right. So you said you guys have an album in the can now, right?
We have 1/3 of another album.
Okay.
Continuing the thing. The COVID thing kind of hit us.
Yeah, everybody.
So we're just kind of starting to get back to it.
Hey, and I wanted to ask you, starting on the East Coast, what brought you out to the West? Because now you're in San Jose, is that right?
Yeah, and we moved out, the family. We moved out in 95, 96.
Oh, you did? Okay.
And I meandered. I walked away from music for a little bit because things changed, and it's a long story.
Yeah.
But I couldn't get away from who I am. This is
right.
That's the big thing. It's like you have to. Back then, I started late, but most people start 25, 30 years old. And I started late, starting asking, what's my purpose here on earth? Even though I had done all that stuff, I started asking, so what am I about? What am I doing? Why am I here? When you start asking those questions, you start getting, and you're honest, and you start getting, and you keep asking, you will get an answer. And at one point, I stopped all the crap. I was trying this. I was trying to do real estate. I was doing all kinds of other stuff other than who I am. And I was pretty good at real estate. I was pretty good at some other things and working long hours and this and that. I had to go back to who I was, that I could. This one real estate guy, it was a quick story. One real estate guy is doing $300,000 a year. I was like, oh, what? He says, look, and he was rude. He says, look, this is the only thing I could do good. I've been divorced 3 times. Yeah. He did, everything else was bad, but this one thing, this real estate thing, I do it in my sleep. I don't even work at it. I don't even think. And I started thinking, in my life, what is one thing that I do in my sleep that I'm not that I don't have to work at it, but it kind of comes easy to me. Dang. Music.
There you go.
So after that conversation, I said, what am I doing? And and between that and I felt like God was saying, yeah, are you ready to get back to where you're supposed to be? Yes. And like in a year, I made twice the amount of money. I got like in a year when I prioritized who I am, who the hell I am, I started my lessons business again. And all of a sudden, everything just transformed, and I was a lot happier.
Right.
Because I was starting to do what I'm supposed to do. And then I just said, I'm going to be a musician, music teacher, or whatever, for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And you just kind of settle the issue. You have to get to that point where you settle the issue.
I love that. It's the perfect segue, because I was just going to ask you, I always ask all my guests, how do you in particular define success? Because, it means a little something different to each of us.
For me, it's changing lives. Whether I get off the stage and have this unbelievable solo and someone comes at me and says, dude, your solo, I mean, do something. Or, man, someone comes at that song number 3 on that album, just totally blew. Or this morning, oh my God, every 5 years I get this, or 10 years I get this prodigy. I think I have a couple of prodigies. They're both brother and sister.
Wow.
Which is weird, but it's unbelievable. This last 3 lessons that I've done, and it's like totally set. One's a songwriter and one's a sax player. These guys are 7 years old, 9 years old.
Wow.
Doing stuff that they're 13, 14-year-old. I'm like sitting there like, what am I doing here? You know, like I literally was like, and I felt the power. I felt like the power of God. It was like, I'm supposed to be here.